Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, 3 bears lived in a house in the woods. They were called Tiny Little Bear, Middle-Sized Bear, and Great Big Bear. Their house, which they kept very spick and span, was full of just the right size things: bowls, cups, spoons, chairs, beds, anything you could think of. One morning, it was Big Bear's turn to make breakfast. He ladled the porridge into the bowls, just the right amount in each. But when they sat down to eat, the porridge was far too hot. The 3 bears decided to go for a walk while it cooled. 2 minutes after they had set off, who should come past their house but a little girl called Goldilocks. Goldilocks was a naughty, spoiled brat who always did exactly what she wanted. She shouldn't have even been in the woods. Her mother had sent her out to buy some milk. But there she was, and she knew the bears were out walking. She tried the door. It wasn't locked, so in she went. Goldilocks spied what was on the table. Porridge! She licked her lips. My favorite. She tried the porridge in Great Big Bear's bowl first. Ugh, she said. That's far too hot. She spat it out. Next, she tried Middle-Sized Bear's bowl. Ugh, that's far too cold. She spat that out too. Last, she tried Tiny Little Bear's. Goody, she said. That's just right. She gobbled it up. Nuts, she said. Actually, she said a far worse word. There wasn't much in there. Then, because she needed a rest after all her wandering around in the woods, Goldilocks tried Great Big Bear's chair. Hard as rocks, she said. No good for me. Next, she sat in Middle-Sized Bear's. Way too soft, she said. Last, she tried Tiny Little Bear's chair. Just right, she said. At least she thought it was until her bottom went through the seat and the chair collapsed. Again, she used a very bad word. But Goldilocks was determined to have rest. Upstairs she went and opened the bedroom door. First, she tried Great Big Bear's bed, but that left her head too high in the air. Next, she tried Middle-Sized Bear's. Then that left her feet too far up. Last, she tried Tiny Little Bear's. It was perfect. Without even taking off her shoes, she tucked herself in and went straight to sleep, dreaming of all the naughty things she'd do when she was older. Meanwhile, the bears returned home. They hung their coats up neatly and went to eat their porridge. Except, who's been at my porridge? Great Big Bear growled. They've even left the spoon in it. And who's been in mine? Asked Middle-Sized Bear, and done the same. And who's been at mine and eaten it all up? Tiny Little Bear sobbed. The 3 bears looked around. Someone had been in their house without permission, and they didn't like that one bit. Somebody's been sitting in my chair, Great Big Bear growled, and tossed my cushion on the floor. Somebody's been sitting in my chair too, growled Middle-Sized Bear. My cushion's squashed. And somebody's been sitting in my chair and broken it, Tiny Little Bear said. He began to cry again. Shh, Great Big Bear said. What's that noise? The 3 bears listened. It's someone snoring, said Middle-Sized Bear. The 3 bears looked at each other. They're still here, Tiny Little Bear said. Upstairs they crept. They went to the bedroom. Somebody's been lying on my bed, Great Big Bear growled. My covers are all creased. Somebody's been lying on my bed too, Middle-Sized Bear grumbled. The pillow's all out of place. And somebody's been lying in my bed, and they're still lying in it, squeaked Tiny Little Bear. Great Big Bear's voice hadn't woken Goldilocks. She thought it was the wind roaring in her dream. Middle-sized Bear's voice hadn't woken her either. She thought it was her teacher shouting, and that didn't frighten her at all. But Tiny Little Bear's shrill voice woke her right away. She took one look at the bear standing in a row alongside the bed, jumped out the other side, and dived through the window. She landed in a bed of flowers planted just last week, knocked over the bird feeder, and ran straight out of the garden. She hasn't shut the gate, Middle-sized Bear complained with a sigh. One of us will have to do it. And what happened to Goldilocks? No one knows. Maybe her mother just scolded her for not bringing the milk. Or maybe she did something worse when she found out what Goldilocks had really been up to.